Hello friends, welcome to another video. Today's drink of choice in my little Skelly mug is literally just milk and flavor. There's not even any coffee in it this time because this time of year I fall back on my little comfort drinks, so here we are. And I planned on posting a reading vlog for it the day that this video is going out. But that is less than 24 hours away and I'm only on page 462, so unless I can read 800 pages in one night, it's not looking too good. I thought instead of putting all this pressure on myself to try and get through this book and make it just a really not enjoyable experience, I would just fall back to a more chill video. And I thought a really good chill video would just be to share my very rough, very thrown together TBR for the Bloomin readathon, which is something that's hosted by Allison Pages and Kirsty. I heard about it through Allison because I watch all of her videos. I love her so dearly. So basically it's a very, very rough prompt list that you can just kind of base your books around for the month of November. And it's set up like a little bingo card, so if you want to do books that follow the prompts and try to get a bingo, if you want to just pick a couple books, if you just want to join and just talk about books with people, it's like the most chill readathon, but it's just, I love doing stuff like this and just feeling like part of a community. So I didn't pick books for every single section, but I do think I have a pretty decent pile here. So I'm just gonna go through them. We're gonna talk about the prompts. We're gonna drink some milk. It's gonna be a good time. So here's the bingo card with all of the different prompts, and then each picture has different meanings. And the first row starts off with the B. The B stands for a book that has a lot of buzz. It has a lot of hype. And I thought a Colleen Hoover book would fit that, because pretty much any Colleen Hoover book would fit into this category. But specifically, I chose Verity just because me and my partner both have copies of this, and we were both gonna read, annotate, and then swap copies to see what the other person thinks. I read It Ends With Us earlier this year, and I didn't really like it, but I was thinking maybe because this isn't just focused on the romance, maybe I'll like it more. I did kind of want to read it for Halloween season, but it is just taking me a little bit longer than I thought, because also I just wasn't really in the mood for reading for like half of October. So I'm just kind of slowly gonna ease my way back into reading by allowing myself to pick from any of these books. And I feel like having these prompts and having this little community will really help me feel like I want to read again. The second one is The Cloud, which is a book that you assume will make you emotional. I picked On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong, literally just because it's about the relationship between a mother and son, and anything that has to do with parents, I lose it. I can't do that. So I think whatever's in this, it will probably make me very, very sad. A brutally honest exploration of race, class, masculinity, and our current American movement, immersed as we are in addiction, violence, and trauma. Yeah, no, I think that'll do it. And then to contrast that, we have Sun, which is just a happy book. And I picked the second book in the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I read the first one. I'm currently like halfway through this one, but really I think any book in this series could apply because they are all such comfort reads. The environment and the characters and the interactions, they're all just so cozy. And I think no matter what age you are, they're really accessible for everybody. It's just kind of one of those books that is good for anybody, I feel like. Then we have the Moon category, which is a book that takes place out of the country you live in. Or I guess out of the country that you're from, but either way. I picked another comfort read, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Philosopher's Stone? Sorcerer? I bought and read this whole series a good while ago, but I really feel like this is a good fall time cozy read just because, you know, it's another one of those comfort series. Stuff like Narnia or Harry Potter, any of these books where they're all kind of younger stories, but they're still fun to read at any age. And for a lot of people, these series also just have really good memories attached to them because of the age that you first read them, so I'm excited to read through a lot of these old series this season. Then we have Tree, which is any nonfiction book. And I'll be honest, I do not own a lot of these. I own so few nonfiction books, and that's something I really need to change. But one that's been on my shelf for a long while is Cast by Isabel Wilkerson. I've talked about this in so many TBR videos. I just really need to get into more nonfiction. I need to start educating my poor little brain. I can only go to these comfort stories for so long, so this will hopefully be read by the end of the year. That is my goal. And I don't know if I said this already, but the Bloomin readathon goes from November 1st to the 30th. I have absolutely no intention of getting through all of these books in that time. I just like to talk about all the prompts and all the possibilities, but there is no way I'm getting through all of this. If you'll excuse me, it's getting hot. One moment. Okay, we're feeling significantly more cozy now. The second row starts with Daffodil, which is any book about friendship. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of these. A lot of the books that I have right now are really dark. They're either part of these comfort series or they're just very, very sad and hard to get through. But I do have She's Sweet Home. It is the most happy, sweet little book I think I will ever own. Look at it. I read the first one of this for my 24-hour readathon, but I love this story so dearly. It's literally just about this little kitten who loses her original cat family and gets adopted by a human family. And this book specifically goes into cheese little relationships with the other animals in the neighborhood, and it's just so sweet. The common trend with these books is definitely comfort reads. I feel like that's just kind of this time of year, because I know the holiday season, as fun as it is, it can be hard for a lot of people. So I feel like, you know, having some books to fall back on that you know will be there for you. It's just kind of, it's a nice thing to have. Then there's the cactus card, which is a non-needy read, so it's a book that's shorter, anything that's more easy to get through. And I picked Death Note short stories because I'm currently reading through the entire Death Note series, but this is just a little bit of short stories that aren't part of the actual show. I have never seen this before. I've never looked through it. I've never read it. And I love this story so dearly, so to be able to get any more content with these characters is just, it's very exciting. So I'm looking forward to this. I say as I look through the entire thing. The next bingo spot is for a book that's more rare, it has less ratings, just something that you don't really hear as much about. And for that, I picked The Hangman by TJ McGregor. I've heard absolutely nothing about this book. It's just something really old that's been sitting on Caitlin's bookshelf. I looked it up and it has, I think, less than 200 ratings, so it's definitely not the most popular book. So I guess we will read through it. We'll see if there's a reason for that. Either way, want to give it a shot. The propagation space is anything that has a different adaptation for it. So like Matilda, Coraline, they have movies made for them, and I picked the Death Note one. No surprise, like I said, I'm reading through this right now, and obviously it has both a show and a movie, which don't watch the movie. Actually, I correct that. Watch the movie if you know nothing about the books. The next one is A Spider, which is just dark anything. So it can be dark themes, dark horror, dark whatever you want. And like Allison, I went for dark academia, and I picked If We Were Villains by ML Rio. It follows a group of students. I've heard it's very, very similar to The Secret History, which is one of my top books of the year, so I'm hoping I will love this one as well. Then the third row, I actually didn't pick any books to go in this one. I just wasn't really feeling any of them. The first one is Lotus, which is a book about disability, or with a character with a disability, or whatever it may be, and I don't actually think I have any, so if any of you know any books, then please tell me, because I would love to read some. Then we have the succulent spot, which is a book that makes you hot, whether that be angry, steamy, any other type of warm feelings. And also there was a free space, which really, I think I have enough books here. I didn't really feel like adding on another one. I guess for the sake of a bingo it would make sense, but my rules. Just making a list, not doing a bingo card. And then the other two in that third row are a book that covers grief or death, and then a slow burn. And just looking off of my TBR stack, I couldn't really see any that fit those either. Then we have the fourth row that starts off with Water, which is a book by an author that you want to read more of. And it is probably no surprise that I picked Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's obviously one of the big TikTok authors, up there with Colleen Hoover and Emily Henry and all these authors. And I've only ever read Evelyn Hugo, so I really want to get into this one. And also it's not written like a regular book. It's written, I think, like an interview, like it's got all the characters' names in front of the text, and I feel like that'll make it pretty easy to get through. The next spot is for a book that will nourish your soul, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to read some of Agatha Christie's short stories, just because these are some of the books that I was reading right as the big pandemic hit. Some of the last books that I was reading while I was physically around people. When I was still going to actual in-person classes, I would go to the library and get some of these short stories. So I feel like they will just have the good memory and just have that comfort feeling, because this is my last memory of a lot of the friends that I had. Next section is for gay, any queer books, anything like that, and I picked Loveless by Alice Oseman. I never read Heartstopper, but I'm really intrigued by this one. The main character is Ace and Arrow, and I feel like there's not very much representation for that in media, so I thought it'd be kind of cool. And also, an honorable mention. I did already read this, so it's not on my TBR, but it is Gender Queer, a little graphic novel, question mark? It's a memoir about the author's experience with being non-binary and asexual. Two things that, like I said, are just not very well represented in media. And I feel like this is done so well. So if you feel like either of those titles, or just in general, if you're queer at all, I feel like this is really relatable and just really comforting to get through, because it's not afraid to get uncomfortable, and that's the type of thing that we need more conversation about, so I really enjoyed reading this. And also the artwork in it is absolutely gorgeous, so that's a plus. Tulip section is for a book that you think you love or that's featuring love. I don't read a lot of romance. I'm not really into that. I couldn't think of any for that either. Then we have The Ladybug, which is a book that's cute on the outside but could ruin your life. I picked Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory just because it's a really cute book. It's got a little egg. It's a nice shade of pink. Looks like a very silly book, but that title also seems like it could be emotionally damaging. I've heard people say that the first story is pretty good and then it kind of goes downhill. I've also never watched BoJack Horseman, but that show obviously has darker themes, so I thought maybe if it's still like that dark humor type of thing, I think I might really like it. And then for row 5, I only picked 3 out of the 5 books. The first one is Roots, which is just returning to your roots, reading a story you've already read. And this might be a weird comfort read, but it is A Little Life by Haina Yonagahara. I read this book earlier this year, right around the time that we were moving in March, I want to say. So many people said this book absolutely destroyed them, but to me, I just really loved the way that all the characters interacted. I loved their friendships. Also, as somebody who had just been to New York for the first time, I feel like that added a different level to it. It's something that Allison has talked about on her channel, where this book, some people say that this book is trauma for the sake of trauma, but Allison brings up the point that sometimes when people experience trauma, they are more prone to experiencing other trauma. And so yes, the character's life sucks in this book. It's a lot of bad things at once, but also when you're put in a bad situation once, you're kind of more prone to be in that situation again because you become more accepting. You don't realize how bad it is, so you let it keep happening in your life, and I feel like that's what happens in this book. So yeah, for some people it might seem unrealistic, but I guess that's just like good for them. But this doesn't seem too unrealistic of a life. I do think the valid complaint about this author is just the way that they have a lot of queer relationships that do not have happy endings. The Earth Spot is for a book that takes place or was written before 1990. And I was gonna pick this for the reread section, but I realized it also fits for this one, and that is Miss Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. This is a book that I have read I don't know how many times, but I read it a long time ago. Here's the proof where I used a rock as a bookmark, and I completely took the pages off of the spine. Books should not be this shape. You're following Miss Frisbee, a widowed mouse with 4 small children, but her youngest son gets pneumonia and cannot be moved to their summer house. I haven't read this book in, I don't even know how many years, probably like 10 years. It's obviously aimed towards children, so I feel like it'd be very nice to just kind of revisit. We have the Ivy Spot, which is for the highest rated book that I have, which I kind of already mentioned them. I think some of the highest rated books that I have on my want to read that I physically own is Colleen Hoover's Verity is probably the top spot, and then I think Loveless by Alice Oseman and Daisy Jones and the Six are all some of my top rated books on at least Goodreads, which they're all already on this list. The second to last prompt is Dandelion, which is a book that you feel like has just been on your shelf forever. It's just been sitting there collecting dust, even though you want to read it, it's just never the right time. I picked Ready Player One because this is also not my copy. This is Kaylin's copy that they keep telling me to read, and I just keep putting it off. The last section is Mole, which is a book with a strong antagonist, and I didn't pick anything for that one either. And that wraps up my TBR for the Bloomin' Readathon. Obviously, this is a very rough plan. This is by no means what I'll actually be reading in November. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to sit down and talk about some books that I'm excited to read just because I have been in a little bit of a reading slump. I set aside 2 weeks to read this book, and I spent the first week not reading anything at all. And now that I'm finally getting back into it, I feel like there's just so much left that it'll be really nice to start getting into some other stories once I get done with it. And this video really just reminded me why I love all of these books so much, just being able to talk about them and to say what drew me to them in the first place. That being said, I think I'm gonna end the video here. The 8 reading vlog should hopefully be coming out on Wednesday the 26th. If not, then next Sunday at the latest. And at that point, we will very quickly be approaching Halloween because Halloween is the next Monday, so we're almost there. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, you can subscribe to this channel. You can also subscribe to my main channel, riverbxnd, where I post music content. Also my Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, all the same name, always in the description of these videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!